months ago he had resigned, but last night Pierre Trudeau swept the Liberals back into power with a majority grip on the government.
Welcome to the 1980s.
Prohibition was the subject of Canada's first referendum in 1898, and even that issue split the country on French-English lines. Canada's second nationwide referendum was far more damaging to national unity. The issue? Conscription. The year 1942. King chose not even to mention the word conscription in the referendum, just as the PQ avoids the use of the controversial word independence in its current referendum. The referendum campaign itself was bitter and emotional, and it drove a deep wedge between French and English Canadians. Passions also ran high in the two referendums in Newfoundland in 1948 that brought the former British colony into Confederation. Referendums tend to encourage passion and confrontation over reason and compromise. The question asked in referendums is never, what's the best way to deal with a problem? Instead, voters are asked to say yes or no to proposition A or B.
How many is that?
46.
You were supposed to stop me at 44.
Trying to figure out how to tell you we could lose the referendum.
Why is that?
Because Ryan won't listen to anybody. He's running the no campaign like it's 1953 all over again. No ads, no polls. He makes speeches in the church basement where he tells everybody they should vote no at the referendum, but he does it at 9 o'clock in the night when it's too late for the TV news.
Can't we get around him?
Ryan? He's the chairman of the no side. Us, we're supposed to keep out our nose. Work through him. That's the law.
Well, maybe we'll just have to give him a hand. Oh, everybody knows what my position is, Peter. What's yours? Well, maybe somebody besides me should be out there saying it won't play out the way Levesque says it will.
Well, they'd have to pay the world prices. If Quebec becomes independent, they can't expect to pay the Canadian price.
No, the government of Saskatchewan's position is quite clear. An independent Quebec would not get preferential treatment in trade or foreign relations.
No, as far as Ontario is concerned, it's either independence or association. You can't have both.
I mean, you can't break up the country and expect to get rewarded for it.
Mr. Prime Minister, sir, the Quebec government claims that this brochure is federal interference in the referendum campaign.
What is it?
It is a Don't Drink and Drive brochure from the Department of Health.
Well, how could that be interference?
The slogan, sir.
No thanks is easy to say?
No, sir. No, sir. In French. No merci, ça se dire très bien. Doesn't that sound a lot like what Mr. Chrétien says in all of his speeches?
What does he say in all his speeches?
He says, la séparation, no merci.
Couldn't agree with him more.
And this week ended on another argumentative note. It has to do with these billboards, part of a federal advertising blitz that's going on in Quebec now. The ads are being investigated by the watchdog agency overseeing campaign financing to see if they violate the referendum law.
This is what you'd be giving up? Your Canadian passport? Is that what you want? Vote yes. And you turn your back on the Rockies which belong to you as much they belong to any other Canadian? For whose benefits? Yours? Yours? No, my friends. Separation benefits tous les bureaucrates de Québec City qui veulent se promener avec le flag du Québec planté dans le hood. Et la bourgeoisie in Outremont, the guy who filled their réservoir d'essence. You and me, we fill our tank à gaz?
Honnêtement, si on obtient un oui, et je sais qu'on va l'avoir, ils n'auront pas le choix. S'ils sont vraiment démocrates, et je sais qu'ils le sont, ils seront bien obligés de négocier la souveraineté association.
Why wouldn't you negotiate with Quebec?
We don't have to negotiate. What if Cuba had a referendum in favor of some sort of association with Canada? Would we have to negotiate? Of course not.
But this is really not Cuba, is it?
Doesn't change anything. I have no mandate from the people of Canada to negotiate sovereignty association with Quebec or anybody else. And certainly not on a trick question that ducks the real issue. The real question they should be asking is simple. Do you want Quebec to be an independent country, yes or no?
C'est de la bouillie pour les chats. C'est leur argument depuis toujours. Comme ils ne veulent pas faire face aux vrais problèmes, ils essaient de nous faire peur. Qui est-ce qu'on est? Une minorité francophone dans une mer de monde qui parle anglais. Alors, on a besoin de certains outils pour se protéger. Et depuis 30 ans, tous les gouvernements du Québec ont agi de la même façon. Un jour ou l'autre, ça va changer. C'est tout à fait normal.
One of the people on the committee got a call from this guy who's been friend of his for years. For years. And you know why the guy called him up? To tell him he'll never talk to him again. That he was a vendu, a sellout, a traitor. What do you say to people like that?
We've all been called worse things by better people.
Eh bien, écoutez, c'est pas une grande surprise de savoir qu'il est contre la souveraineté. Je veux dire, son nom, c'est Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Et c'est le côté Elliott qui prend le dessus. Et c'est le côté anglais.
Oh, that was a big mistake.
Alors, les Québécois ne doivent s'attendre à aucun appui de sa part.
Elliott was my mother's name. It's the name of the Elliots who came to Canada more than 200 years ago. The name of the Elliots who settled in Saint-Gabriel-de-Brandon over 100 years ago. Oui, mon nom est québécois, et mon nom est canadien aussi. And don't be misled. Don't be misled. A no vote in this referendum is not a vote for the status quo. We, the Quebec members of Parliament, are laying ourselves on the line. We're telling Quebecers they should vote no, and at the same time, we're telling the Canadians in the other provinces that a no vote in this referendum cannot be taken as an indication that everything is fine. That things can go on just as they were before.
In spite of the long rounds of debate and the argument, many Quebecers still remain bewildered. As many as 1/4 of the voters have not yet decided which way to vote.
That means the results of the referendum are still unpredictable. Tensions running high here in Quebec as the campaign comes to a head. Claude Ryan, the leader of the No campaign, ran into those kind of tensions early this morning when he showed up at his local polling station trying to cast his ballot. An official at the polling station talked about the rose Ryan was wearing on his lapel, asked him to remove it before casting his ballot. The rose was red, the official argued. The red is the color of the Federalist cause, therefore Ryan was secretly campaigning, he said, or campaigning indirectly. There was the controversy over the federal health department's Don't Drink and Drive campaign earlier on. Yes, I argued that was an illegal intrusion by the federal government into a strictly provincial campaign.
One brother and one sister voted yes. The other brother and sister, they voted no. And now they don't talk to each other. Whole families who don't talk to each other.
We weren't the ones who called the referendum.
Do
you believe this? Thank God for the high no vote in Gaspé.
Yeah, just wait for the West Island results. I don't want to do this again.
That's why you have to get it on plane tomorrow. We need to deal with this once and for all.
98% of the polls now reporting the no 59.5%, the yes 40.5%, an overwhelming victory for the no side.
We can do it.
And how did it go?
The premiers are very happy to talk about the Constitution.
I'll call you back.
But, well, on constitutional change, Alberta needs to be able to opt out of any federal program and be compensated for it. We want to see Senate reform. And, of course, we must maintain complete control over
British Columbia needs Senate reform, and we don't want to get lumped in with the other Western provinces. We need our own veto.
J'insiste sur le veto et la souveraineté du Québec, bien sûr, mais aussi le plein pouvoir du Québec dans les domaines de la langue, la culture, l'éducation, les communications, la main-d'œuvre et les ressources naturelles.
Newfoundland needs bigger transfer payments from Ottawa, complete control of the fisheries, and a fair share of offshore oil and gas money.
From a provincial point of view, the Prime Minister of Canada would be in charge of ribbon-cutting ceremonies at shopping centres from coast to coast. What kind of a country is that? It's a simple three-point plan. First, bring home the Constitution. Right now, we have to ask the British Parliament to make changes for us. We're the only industrialized democracy in the world that can't amend its own constitution. Second, the People's Package, a charter of rights and freedoms laying out the basic rights for all Canadian citizens, regardless of religion, race, sex, or language. Yes, language. Third, the Politicians' Package, a formula for amending the Constitution. Ontario and Quebec get a veto, and the federal government gets the right to call a referendum if we can't come to an agreement. You know, if we can't get the job done, the Canadian people will.
How are you? He's going to have a referendum on gas. So if you can run your own form, we can share it. Yes, he's going to have a referendum on gas.
But notwithstanding,
that's not what we talked about.
Let me show you what
Hold on, I have. How in the world? He's going to have a referendum on gas. Am I boring you? Sharing. Thank you very much. We have to respond. I can't believe what? Am I boring you? Lunch.
Do me a favor, go talk to Chrétien.
You're upsetting the status quo.
The status quo is not an option. He made a promise. We're open to discussion, but if we can't come to an agreement, we'll take this package to the British government with or without you.
You can't do that. It's unconstitutional.
We have a majority in the Senate, in the House. We have the legal right to ask the Blitz for changes. If it's the only way to settle this, that's what it's got to do.
We'll have to get the premiers together. I'll talk to you later.
Let's face it, he wants all the power in Ottawa. Oil and gas, lumber, fish. He'll make the rules, he'll set the prices.
Watch how fast he gets into health and education.
Might even make you build French schools, translate all your laws.
Hey, you and Davis get the veto, none of us do.
He's got a referendum. Guess what happens if I use the veto?
Okay, every minority in the country will love the Charter. The same goes for media and human rights people.
It's like motherhood. Yeah, I'm all for it. Me too. Language rights make sense to me. Move the battles off the streets of Moncton into the courts.
Then you've got judges making laws instead of elected politicians. I don't know about you, but that's a problem for me.
Okay, personally, we've been arguing this for 30 years. I can deal with this.
Me too.
2 down, 8 to go.
Don't take it personally.
We won't.
Okay. I say we take Trudeau's package to court. I don't think he has a constitutional right to do this.
What about the Brits? He's got to get it past them. Do we know anybody in London?
I do.
Do you know the Quebec representative in London?
I'm afraid I don't.
Lovely man, lovely man. Throws the most exquisite dinner parties.
How nice.
Her Majesty's government have also asked me to convey its displeasure about the lack of information concerning your constitutional package. This situation has the potential to put Her Majesty in a very awkward position.
All the more reason for Her Majesty's government to pass the necessary legislation.
Mr. Prime Minister.
Unless it intends to revive the British Empire, the British government should just hold its nose and let us deal with our constitution.
Oh, dear.
Joe Clark wants parliamentary hearings on the Constitution, sir.
Why didn't he have them when he was Prime Minister?
He's saying you can't call it the people's package without input from the people.
Good. Let's have input from people, not politicians.
If Canada is to have a new constitution, we want it to be one with which we as Canadians of Ukrainian descent can also identify proudly. A new constitution is like a new house. In it, there must be room for the whole family.
If it were not for the Métis Provisional Government of Louis Riel, there would be no Western Canada. We'd be all part of the Republic of the United States.
It looks on the surface that women are being given rights in this charter, and it's only when you read between the lines and you find out what the Supreme Court decisions are and you find out what the words actually mean that you find that women are not being given rights.
We lived through the worst kind of racism in British Columbia for more than 70 years. Imagine having to pay taxes for 70 years without even the right to vote.
Now, we're aware of the fact that the premiers of the various provinces have been saying that they are the best protectors of human rights. They are the best protectors against discrimination by various racial and other minority groups. We don't agree with that.
Or else the other things that we are striving to achieve in the Canadian Constitution will not be achievable.
Well, sir, I'm not trying to be rude in any way, but I'm sure we're not trying to grant civil rights to trees.
Mr. Prime Minister, I think we're going to have some trouble reaching an agreement tomorrow.
Why is that? Because British Columbians want Senate reform, and you don't seem to agree.
An elected Senate is not part of British parliamentary tradition. I would think that's important in British Columbia.
In British parliamentary tradition, the people speak through their elected representatives, not referendums. Not
if he takes his charter to a referendum, I'll beat the crap out of him.
That's American.
Do you actually want a deal?
Well, of course I do. I made a promise. Because we all agreed we'd stop the squabbling and get down to business.
Well, then let's negotiate.
Well, negotiation is one thing. Being held for ransom is quite another. And these court cases.
Look, what we have here are two concepts of Canada. We're in the courts because from where I'm sitting, Levesque's vision of Canada looks a lot better than yours does.
I can't leave until dessert's been served. Is that right, according to protocol?
Consider it served.
Thank you. Good night.
The princeling is not amused.
Whoa! Are you all right? Oh. Come you try. Ready? Come along. Whoa! Come on, come on.
Mr. Prime Minister?
Go.
We won the court cases.
All of them?
Well, Manitoba and Quebec, we're still waiting for Newfoundland.
They won in Quebec?
Yes, sir.
Levesque has appealed?
So has Manitoba.
The British High Commissioner?
The British High Commissioner. I just got off the phone with him.
I've got witnesses to the conversation. He said to me, I know you're a monarchist. I know you wouldn't want to put Her Majesty in a difficult position.
He thinks you're trying to make her choose between the British and Canadian position here. And if she goes with the Brits, she'll use that to get rid of the monarchy here in Canada.
You wouldn't, would you?
Run me through the other stuff.
But you wouldn't, would you?
Why would I make my life even more difficult than it is?
Sir John thinks he can put together enough votes in the House of Commons to defeat any bill you might want to send to London.
Those exact words.
He says he's had discussions with members of all parties.
Including the Liberals, who would vote against the bill if they got enough encouragement.
He understands that if I lost the vote, the government would fall.
That seems to be the idea.
Uh-huh. He's talking about a coup.
Well, he'd never say that, but you might.
Mr. Prime Minister, the Newfoundland Court of Appeal has ruled that the package is unconstitutional.
Thank you.
The ruling won't stand up on appeal. Every lawyer who read it says the same thing.
It's still going to take time, Jean.
The appeals in Manitoba and Quebec are gonna take time.
Okay, the Brits aren't gonna like this. Thatcher wants to get her privatization bills through by the end of the year, so if this is late getting to her, the opposition is gonna use it to slow her down. She will not be amused. Mark?
What if we refer it to the Supreme Court?
What if they say we need the provinces?
They won't. Read the BNA Act.
The Supreme Court of Canada is called to order. After 5 months of waiting, Canadians are to finally learn whether Prime Minister Trudeau can amend and patriate the Constitution without provincial consent. But when Chief Justice Bora Laskin begins to speak, it soon becomes evident that the decision of the century is a non-event. The judges are hopelessly divided on the key issue of whether Trudeau can act alone. 7 judges say it's legal, but 6 say it's unconstitutional because it violates convention. Both sides claim victory.
Okay. So, we give him patriation and the charter.
And a notwithstanding clause, so that we can opt out if we need to.
No referendums, agreed?
Agreed.
Otherwise, he'll be sticking his nose in our business anytime he feels like it.
We also need an opting out formula.
Yes.
If he sets up a federal daycare program and we want to run our own, we can opt out. Whatever he pays for his program, he pays into ours. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. The veto for Ontario and Quebec. As far as I'm concerned, that means first and second class provinces.
If I can opt out, I don't need a veto.
Levesque wasn't serious about a deal. He was just ganging up with the other premiers to stop me.
You're here.
All right.
Very good. Good.
Now, we have to stick together on this. Nobody changes position or tries to make side deals without consulting the others.
The Gang of 8.
The Gang of 8.
The Gang of 8.
Gang of 8.
Gang of 8.
Gang of 8.
Good boys.
Good job.
Messieurs, gentlemen. Bonjour, bon après-midi, monsieur le maire. Bonjour,
We'll be doing this next year.
You know, if we're bargaining, you know, I'd expect you to give me something. I mean, you've given me nothing. I haven't asked for anything, but we've been round and round on this for 2 days now. The notwithstanding clause makes no sense to me. You either have rights or you don't. And you can't have them in one province and not have them in another. And as for opting out, I can't commit this government to pay for programs it doesn't administer. That's irresponsible. So how about this? We'll let the people decide which proposal they like better, yours or mine. Huh? A national referendum. Well, you can't object to that. You're the great Democrat, the great believer in referendums. You don't like the charter?
I've got my own charter.
Well, fine. Let's see which one the people like better.
You know I'd win.
No, I don't.
Okay, you run. A referendum.
So we put the whole question of a charter to the people of Canada. Do you want this charter modified or otherwise, or do you not want a charter? And the people of Canada will decide if they want a charter. Mr. Levesque agreed with that. So we have a new alliance between the Quebec government and the Canadian government.
I think it's an honorable way out. I think if you give Quebecers a choice between our language law, Bill 101, and the stuff in Trudeau's charter, they'll choose us by a lot.
And the cat is among the pigeons.
Renee, I thought we said we wouldn't do anything without consulting each other.
I know. But I can beat the son of it. I know I can.
You're also saying it's okay for him to call referendums on education, on health care, on any damn thing he wants. He gets to choose when, he gets to choose the question.
Tried to warn you.
There'll be referendums.
He'll tear the country apart.
On oil, gas, wheat, fish.
You're the one who said you never wanted to go through this again.
I warned you, Levesque separatists, he doesn't want to deal. All I'm asking for is a little more time.
Come on, we've got what we need.
I think we can do better. Nobody wants a referendum.
End of the day, no more.
Will you buy the idea of an opting out clause?
I don't think so. He says finance will go nuts.
What about without compensation?
Without? I could maybe sell.
No, we could never sell it to Alberta.
He has to have the charter.
With a notwithstanding clause.
No way.
We've got to have it.
Sorry, never. No way. He has to have the language right. It's who he is.
Mr. Lougheed, please. Mr. Lougheed, I think we have some movement. We'd like to come down and see you. In a couple minutes, thank you.
Mr. Bennett, we'll be up in 2 minutes.
We can't find Levesque, see if we can find Moran.
I think we made progress, and I think we should talk about it, sir. Okay. That's it. They want to be able to opt out, but they won't insist on compensation. No veto for Quebec and Ontario. Any amendment has to be approved by 7 provinces and 50% of the population.
The charter?
They want a notwithstanding clause on everything.
Jean, can I see that, please?
Manitoba's got an election the day after tomorrow. He's getting killed on minority language rights. Davis is worried about it too. And you know, in Quebec, there's gonna be a war.
Referendums?
They hate them. So do I.
Mark.
And then we'll stay with our package. There's no point in doing this if we don't get a charter.
At what cost? The whole country torn apart? The charter. Rejected in Quebec, approved in the rest of the country. Where are we then?
Any word from Levesque?
I gotta go bring my boss up to date.
Me too.
Hello. Thank you.
Aha, Mr. Davis.
It's a hell of an hour for visitors, isn't it?
No. Come on in.
No, I just came by to tell you something face to face.
Sorry I'm late. I got hung up. Where is everybody?
You should have a look at this.
Why didn't I know about this?
They tried. They left messages with everybody they could think of. Nobody returned their calls. None of us saw the finished draft until just now.
No veto? A charter of rights that takes precedence over the language laws? Are you crazy?
You can opt out. You can use a notwithstanding clause.
I can't go along with this. I am completely left out.
There's a new proposal on the table. Has everybody read it? I have the following comments. I don't like the notwithstanding clause, but I'll live with it. On two conditions. One, that it cannot be used with respect to minority language education rights, and two, that there be a time limit attached to its use so that no one can override the charter indefinitely. If we can agree to that, then we can take this to London, and I'll drop the referendum.
I can't support you on the referendum, Pierre. You know, it might be good for you and Levesque, but we don't think it's particularly good for the country. Well, you had to break up the Gang of Eight somehow, and the way you did it was pretty smart. Give you that. But this is not an all-or-nothing proposition.
Well, I never said that it was. But a charter of rights isn't a menu. You can't take one from column A, another from column B, and leave the rest behind. You can't have minority language education rights for one minority and not for another one.
Give it some time.
Well, how much time do we need?
Let the people get used to it.
Oh, we've been talking about constitutional reform since 1927. I've been going to these gabfests since the 50s. When do we finally say to ourselves, no, this is what we believe in. This is what the country is. But if we're not sure, if, civil rights and fundamental freedoms just sort of checkerboard coast to coast, well, then we're not a country worthy of the name.
Pierre.
No, really, when do we stand up for ourselves? When do we take our future into our own hands and say, this is us, here we are? Why can't we be bold?
There is an art in being bold, yes. There's also an art in compromise. I can't support you on the referendum, Pierre. Hadfield feels the same way. So you'd lose both of us.
Politics is the art of the possible. This is possible.
Happy to report on behalf of the conference that a consensus has been reached, and therefore, although there is one sad note in this conclusion, I'm hopeful that with goodwill and in the interests of Canada and of its peoples, that we will very soon be able to make this accord unanimous. But we all have what is called in French l'esprit d'escalier, badly translated afterthoughts. I don't think I'm going to open the meeting to any afterthoughts. I think we'd better just grab this signature, this paper, and run with it before anybody changes his mind. La séance est ajournée.
Today, I have proclaimed this new constitution, one that is truly Canadian at last. There could be no better moment for me, as Queen of Canada, to declare again my unbounded confidence in the future of this wonderful country. May God bless and keep you all.
Pierre. Are you all right?
You know, it's...
You look like you could use a drink. All right, not a drink. A cup of coffee. I'll buy I have money.
All right. All right.
Sasha must go through a quart of milk a day. And Justin's just as bad. He drowns his cereal. Same at your place?
Yeah.
I keep trying to get them to eat oatmeal.
Forget it.
How are you doing?
You know me.
No. I think that was part of the problem.
For many of us, the world of today stands on the threshold of a golden age. We can foresee sweeping changes in our life, in our work, in our leisure, in our country, and in our world. I've been fighting for the triumph of logic in politics over passion, for the protection of individual freedoms against collective tyranny. An energetic country of ours can become a model of the just society in which every citizen will enjoy his fundamental rights, in which two great linguistic communities and peoples of many cultures will live in harmony, and in which every individual will find fulfillment. For me, that is Canada, c'est ça, le Canada.